Absolutely. Well, it's great to be with you, and such an honor to be a part of this. I know
Yeah.
it's a little taxing for you,
That's
but
great.
really is focusing in on such a important issue and an important population in our communities. For me, I had the privilege of serving in the Senate here in Indiana for 8 years, so
Okay.
2 terms, and then
Okay.
I voluntarily term limited myself. I
So-
decided 8 years was plenty.
Now, when did that happen?
Yeah, so it was in November of
Okay.
last year.
Okay. See,
So
I'm
I
just not
still,
aware.
they tell me I still have the senator title,
Oh,
but
you got it. Okay.
I don't have as many of the
Privileges.
pressures or
pressures.
privileges
Yeah. Yeah.
that I used to have. So I basically made that decision for a couple of reasons. The biggest of which was continuing to wrestle with, where would God have us leverage and maximize our influence.
Yeah.
And for me, my true heart and passion is for leadership development.
Sure.
And so I've been doing that for probably 20 to 30 years. And you mentioned briefly, we had started a nonprofit years ago called the Sagamore Leadership Initiative.
Yes.
So that's focused primarily on next generation leaders,
Okay.
mostly high school, some college, and a little bit of junior high. And I actually, when I was a senator, had to talk to our board about stepping back from the executive director role because I just didn't have the bandwidth. So we've got some leaders that are taking kind of the reins of that, and I help out pretty regularly. But then the biggest thing that I do now, especially after having gotten out of the Senate, is I started a business about 4 or 5 years ago called JBC Leadership Strategies.
Your initials, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
okay,
right. Thank
okay.
you. And basically, the goal of that is to come alongside leaders that are in the professional space, whether it's in the business government space where I've spent a lot of time, or the nonprofit space, ministry space, church space. So just trying to help leaders and empower them to get better at being their best. So we take a values-driven legacy focus on leadership and trying to help people go, hey, what kind of impact do I want to make? How do I want to get there? How do I want to help my people get there? And so
you're
that's what I
pouring
get
into
to do.
others who pour into other people.
Well, that's the idea, right? Is that whole empowerment piece. And I love it. I love it. I mean, I tell people, because people often ask, like, so what are you doing now? Or do you miss the Senate? It's like,
exactly.
I miss a lot of the people in the Senate.
Sure.
I was pleasantly surprised when I came in on the front end. I came in with kind of a jaundiced eye, like we have, politicians are all a bunch of bums, When I get there, boy, we're going to clean it up.
Change it,
That's right. Then you get in there and you realize, man, there are some really sharp people,
really good people,
and across the political spectrum, left, right, and their heart is in the right place. It's to say, hey, I want to try to really help and serve my community. Nobody gets up every morning as a political leader and goes, let me figure out how to make life harder for people, right? The challenge becomes, as you're trying to pursue the right thing, okay, what's the right thing?
Man.
And that's where you get all the debate. So once I, had that experience, I've come to really respect political leaders.
Yeah.
I mean, every space we've got bad apples, but a majority of the political leaders, at least in our state, are doing a great job.
Yeah.
And so I miss the people.
Yeah.
But I don't miss a lot of the other stuff.
The other stuff that
That's
comes
right.
along with
That's
with
right.
it, right.
So I get to get up every day and come alongside leaders and really help them get after it in whatever they're trying to pursue. And I love it.
I bet it gives you a little more flexibility in your
Absolutely.
schedule. See a little bit more of your family, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I tell people. It's like, I'm as busy as I've ever been.
Yeah.
But I do get to control my schedule
Exactly
more.
right.
And my meetings are a lot more fun.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Well, I don't think there's anything more important than having good, effective leadership in our community.
That's right.
And in Indianapolis, we're so fortunate to really have good leaders, and for a long, long time. And so I tell people all the time, Wheeler, next Tuesday will be Wheeler's 132nd
That's amazing.
birthday.
That's amazing.
We've seen it all, right?
Yeah,
And through it all, we've had great leadership. I took over for Rick Albus.
Yeah,
You probably knew
he was
Rick
there for a long
number
time.
of years, 33 years.
That's amazing.
So he was zooming in last night from Dallas.
Oh, good.
And so just because you retired doesn't mean you go away, Rick.
That's right.
And so we've had good leadership here at Wheeler Mission.
Yeah.
And so my prayer each and every day, for the last 2.5, almost 3 years I've been here, in the leadership position is that I can just do what's best and honor God each and every day.
That's right.
This is a sacred responsibility.
It absolutely is, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about people. I mean, it's been interesting, especially with some of the things that have happened recently, even with the death of Charlie Kirk. It's caused people to have to really wake up, young people and people of an older generation. And I've shared with audiences about the difference between what we call important things and then ultimate things. Right?
Yeah. Oh, good distinction.
And the ultimate things are the things that Wheeler has been focused on for so long. Is, as they say in business, nobody on their deathbed says, man, I really wish I'd spent more time at the office. As important as that is. Because at the end of the day, it's about people. And I would say particularly it's important, the work that you're doing at Wheeler, because this is a kind of an invisible population, right? They're all on our street corners, but we pretend like they're not. And they're real people with real backstories, real challenges that frankly are not a lot different than the challenges we face, but maybe they've started at a starting point that's farther behind our starting point. So I think it's excellent what you're doing.
I get a daily report on all the stuff that's happening in the ministry, and last night we saw a little over 700 folks, men, women, and children.
That's amazing.
Last night, and it's not even cold yet, John. And when it gets cold, it can go 800-900, sometimes up to 1,000 a night. But it is all about relationships. One of the things that the Citygate Network was trying to do with Conversations on a Bench. My son asked me, he said, Dad, why a bench? And I said, son, a bench is pretty ordinary. But it can lead to some extraordinary conversations, some extraordinary relationships. And that's really what it's all about. And besides, our mentor, the guy we model ourselves after, the guy that we follow, and we want to be, a follower of him and revel in the dust that comes from him as we follow him. Jesus Christ, he had conversations everywhere.
Exactly.
And very ordinary places, a well.
That's right.
The road.
That's right.
A hill, lots of hills. He seemed to like hills quite a bit, right? And so why not a bench? Why not a bench? And
that's
so,
right.
I don't know if you know this, but this bench is has a little story.
Oh, wow.
As hard and uncomfortable as it is. And, I love you guys, but, we have a part of our ministry. A lot of people don't know that Wheeler is more than just food, clothing, and shelter. That's what we're known for. It's called Emergency Shelter Services, for those experiencing homelessness. But a lot, what we also do are the things, programmatic things, drug and alcohol addiction recovery programs, short and long term, job readiness training programs, mental health counseling, and we just do a multitude of things. One of the things we do is we have social enterprises, part of our long-term drug and alcohol addiction recovery program for the men, and a nearly 300-acre facility that was donated to us back in the late 1950s by the Hunt family. It's called Camp Hunt, and that is part of our work therapy for men who are trying to get off drugs or alcohol. And so we put them pretty much for an intensive 9-month program, John, almost in the middle of nowhere, Morgan Monroe State Park. And they live and they work and they study and they get closer to Jesus Christ. Now, it's not for everybody. It's pretty intensive, 9 months, and
but it separates those that are serious about really wanting to take that next step.
You have to get them out of the city. You have to get them out of the environment in which they, got them to the place where they needed the help. But the story is the bench is made by the men in the program.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Camp Hunt, and so we make pallets down there, custom pallets for all kinds of businesses, and that we asked them to make a bench for us, and so it's kind of special. Even if it's not very forgiving.
No, that's all right.
That's a piece of wood. Right? But I told them, I said, next year, guys, put some hydraulic springs or something in here.
Little lazy boy.
I mean, it's a custom bench, right? You can make it the way you want to make it.
That's right.
No, but that's what we want to try to do here is have authentic, transparent conversations on a bench. Something ordinary released to extraordinary.
Well, exactly. And I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to addressing all of these issues that you're talking about, Perry, where, it's that age-old thing. You can teach a man to fish. You can give a man a fish, or you can teach him to fish. And it's the difference between a hand out and a hand up, right? It's the empowerment piece of saying, hey, you have dignity and worth. Yeah, you may have had a tough road. Yeah, you may have made some bad decisions. Who hasn't, right? But you're not irredeemable.
Yeah.
And we want to come alongside you and help you figure things out.
Yeah.
Get your feet back under you. Give
Yeah.
you a hand up so that you can go be everything God wants you to be.
We say all the time, where you've been does not determine where you're going to go.
That's exactly right.
Unless you wanted to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's
So
right.
it's
It's about
a choice.
choices.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
It really is a choice.
That's true.
So, John, tell me a little bit, about how you got to the point where you are, right? And so you're a man of faith, strong faith. You're known for that, right? Quite frankly. And it's one of the reasons we want to talk to you is, you ask a question, what are we seeing in terms of homelessness and the growing need? It just keeps going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And we don't have infinite resources.
Yeah,
we don't
that's
receive
right.
government funding.
Yeah.
We receive, our money from individuals and churches and,
Yeah.
foundations and other partners in the community, corporations. But the needs just continue to grow
Yeah,
and grow and
That's
grow.
right.
So what do you, in all your experience in the legislature and your work with individuals and organizations out here,
Yeah.
what could we do and what should we be doing and looking at to help us with this? It is really a crisis in our nation.
Yeah, that's right. And I think you're raising a very interesting challenge that isn't new. It's one that people have been wrestling with for a long time, and it isn't geared specifically to your population. It affects a variety of things, and that is, how do we solve these pressing issues within the different opportunities that government programs might provide, but then nonprofits and charitable giving and philanthropy and all those other things. One of the things that it actually shaped my decision for getting out of the Senate was this kind of mental image. There's this concept that politics is downstream from culture, that it actually is more of a reflection of culture, which I would tend to actually agree. As much as we talk about being political leaders, we're more like political followers.
What's happening out
That's
here
right.
is
What
gonna
are
be
people
reflected
saying,
in
and
the
then
Senate.
we're gonna react accordingly. Not that we never proactively pursue things, but it's more of a reaction posture. Well, if politics is downstream from culture, then what is upstream? And upstream is what I call the war of worldviews, like the
what view?
the war of worldviews,
War of-
right?
okay.
Like there's a philosophical idea battle going on about how we should live. And of course, from a Christian perspective, we're trying to pursue the flourishing life for people.
Sure.
The way I describe it is trying to help people find and follow the good path to the truly good life, which comes right out of Jeremiah 6:16. And so it's the same for any of us. It's the same for folks that might be living on the street. It's the same for anybody who's living in suburban areas, rural areas, anywhere, socioeconomic, any of this, strata. And yet we have challenges. So then you go, what do you do? Well, part of that philosophical debate is, well, some people say, well, the government needs to come in and they need to solve this. And yes, the government has a particular
to
role,
play, right?
but for far too long, that role has encroached in a variety of areas that I personally think were not originally designed for the government. But those in the private sector, those in the philanthropic space, the church, if we're going to be honest, has allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Because the government, I'm paying my taxes and we have this need. Well, let's create a government program. Well, as Ronald Reagan often said, government is the only eternal entity out there, right? It's like it'll never go away.
Yeah.
As opposed to an emphasis on public-private partnerships, right? Where the government can play its role. But then you have other organizations, Wheeler and other ministries or churches, are saying, hey, let's figure out how to work together to try to solve this problem. And so, yes, we need public policy and legislation to try to set the boundaries for allowing people to flourish. But most of all, it's going to be that heart of generosity that is going to say, hey, I see this need. I feel compelled to meet this need. I feel, I would say, a spiritual catalyst for meeting this need, because that's what God's called us to do, right? He says in Scripture, Jesus said, you always have the poor with you.
Yes, exactly right.
Right? So it's
one of
like,
my favorite scriptures.
you need to be able to have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the hands to act in those situations. And so, Scripture says God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, which means there are unlimited resources. The challenge always is, how do we get those unlimited
That's right,
resources
that's right.
downstream
Yeah.
to meet the needs right there on the street? And of course, that's the tension you all are in right now.
People always ask me all the time, how can we solve homelessness? And I give them a blunt answer, but it's meant to be blunt and shake them out of their normal thinking about it. And I said, it can't be solved.
Yeah.
You know, they go, why? And I said, it's biblical. The Bible says
Yeah.
the poor will always be among us. And so
That's right.
what better representation of the poor and widows and orphans
Yeah.
than the individuals who are experiencing homelessness, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that we can't do things and to help individuals when they're going through this experience,
Yeah.
making sure that they have the resources that they need to get back on their feet,
Yeah.
making sure that they do it in the right way, that it's a total life transformation.
Yeah.
And we believe that total life transformation is only available through Jesus Christ.
That's right.
But, you know, they come to us because it's more transactional.
Yeah.
You know, they need food, clothing, and shelter. And by the time, if they stay with us, you know, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 24 months later, John, it's more transformational.
Yeah.
It can start as transactional,
That's right.
but it's gonna, if we, you know, if we do our job and if you stick with us,
Yeah.
it's going to be transformational.
We get you into the door and you
Exactly.
stick with us,
Yeah.
you'll see the outcome.
You'll see
And I
transformation.
think that's the other key thing too, Perry. It's like, it's so easy for the rest of the population to get on with our lives. And I've done the
Oh, yeah.
same thing.
Oh yeah,
right?
we all have.
You're
we all
walking
have.
down the street and somebody's got their sign or whatever. And it's the hard part, and this is where it becomes self-indicting, is it's also easy for me to mentally go, well, they just need to work harder, or they need to pick themselves up by they need to care, they need whatever. And
I
maybe,
kind of get upset with those misconceptions.
yeah,
a little
right?
bit,
Like maybe there's a little bit of truth to that, but at the same time, I have no idea what their life circumstances.
Nope.
And I remember early in my career in the Senate, in our Hendricks County, which is what we call one of the donut counties
Okay.
around
Yeah,
Indianapolis, the sheriff's department invited me to do a ride along.
Okay.
Right?
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, so I did a half a
Wow.
tour
Wow.
just in Hendricks County. It wasn't down here in Indianapolis, but half a tour in Hendricks County. And for 6 hours, we're doing all the
And you
different
see
stuff.
for yourself.
And you have a much greater appreciation
Yeah.
for the day in, day out that law enforcement does all night, all
Yeah.
day to keep us safe.
Yeah.
Up until that point, I could have all these, assumptions and sometimes misconceptions about their world.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it's the same thing in politics.
Yeah.
People have all these assumptions and
Misconceptions.
misconceptions about political leaders. And then you get on the inside. I tell people, it's like when it came to politics, I used to have all the answers. And then I got elected to office.
So you got
And
the
it's like,
politics.
holy cow, this is a lot different.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing when it comes to any population. Teachers, right? Oh, teachers, or pastors. Well, how hard is that? They only have to work one day a week,
Yeah.
And then you get in there and go, holy smokes, there is a lot more here. It's the same thing with this particular population, but we will never understand that if we continue to treat them as invisible people.
We can't treat them as others.
That's right.
They are our brothers and sisters.
That's
They're
exactly
neighbors.
right.
You know as well as I do that most Americans are only 3 or 4 paychecks away
Yeah,
from not
exactly.
being able to pay their
We're all
bills
teetering on the
and
brink. We
meet
just
their needs.
wear a nice outfit and let people
Yeah.
assume
Yeah.
that we got it all
Yeah.
together.
I mean, there's just no silver bullet answer
Yeah,
to
that's right.
homelessness, and it's just not one thing. It's a combination of things. It's usually, John, a domino effect, a cascading of
Yeah,
things
that's right.
until one day it all catches up with them.
That's right.
And they
That's
find
right.
themselves knocking on doors like Wheeler,
Yeah.
asking for help.
Yeah.
And that's why we exist. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We're there.
Yeah.
We welcome any and every one. Now you can't bring guns and knives
Sure,
and things
right,
like that through our
right.
metal detectors and things like that. But
Yeah.
that's who we are, and that's what we do.
Well, and it raises the veteran population. My mom and
Absolutely.
dad were both Vietnam veterans. They
Yeah.
actually met in Vietnam.
Well,
And so we're from a military family and just have a deep heart for veterans. I was blessed to serve on the Veterans Committee,
Oh,
in
were
the
you? Okay.
Senate. And, a significant percentage of the veteran population ends up homeless for a variety of reasons. Some might be suffering from PTSD or addiction
a
issues
lot
or
of
whatever.
mental challenges.
Yeah,
mental
just
health
having to
challenges.
deal with the trauma of putting themselves in
Yeah.
harm's way
Yeah.
so that you and I can sit on a bench, right? And so, yes, we elevate, focus and appreciation for veterans in a variety of different ways, but I think sometimes we forget that a lot of them are struggling in
Yeah.
ways that we can't imagine. And of course, you all see that, in the work that you do.
Somebody asked me to say in one word, how do I sum it all up? And I say, I'm hopeful.
There you
I'm
go.
hopeful,
There you go.
And you know what, John, we have a great community here in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
and we all work well together. We all, have our camps that we go
Yeah.
into, and the same thing in the nonprofit world, right?
Sure.
I'm learning that really quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So, since I'm the first non-pastor that's been CEO of Wheeler in 132-year history, it's been pretty
You're
eye-opening
making
for me.
history. That's good.
It's been eye-opening for
That's
me.
good.
But I am so proud of Indianapolis.
Me
and,
too.
But it's starting to get cold.
Yeah.
And people are going to need shelter, safe
That's
shelter. Indianapolis has a winter, something called winter contingency, December 1 through March 31, the coldest months of the year here in Indianapolis. We make special arrangements, and we're already a low barrier shelter, the largest in the state, but then we lowered the barriers even more because it becomes a matter of life and death.
Yeah, that's
At
right.
that point,
That's right.
right? And so, and that's what we do. But the community here, and I know you saw it
Yeah.
when you work, in government and you work in the private sector.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can't do if we come together.
Yeah.
With the right heart and the right attitude, an open
Exactly.
mind, and an open heart.
Well, and I got to be honest. I'm a lifelong Hoosier. I actually grew up just north of Camp Hunt.
Did you really?
In Martinsville.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
down there. And I love Indiana.
Yeah.
When I got done with graduate school was the time when I really had the opportunity. You just kind of could go anywhere. You're not tethered.
Yeah.
I wasn't married at the time. It's like we could go anywhere. And I was like, yeah, but I love Indiana, right?
Yeah, so you stayed right here.
Yeah, because there's so many great things happening. And to your point, a lot of really good people doing great work in our city, a lot of great leaders who are thoughtfully and strategically trying to address the common problems that every city has, and doing it together and saying, hey, we're not going to depend on something else. We're just going to roll up our sleeves, come with full hearts, and say, hey, how can we serve whatever the need is? And that's the other thing. I think too many times we see needs, and even if our heart goes out to it, what can I do? I don't have a ton of
It
resources.
seems overwhelming. It's
Yeah.
just so complex.
But my dad, who's since passed away, he always had this one line, many hands make light work. And it was that idea of, but everybody can do a little something. And if more and more people do a little something, then it becomes a big something. And that's where you all can be the beneficiaries. You can be on the front lines doing what you do. That's always the challenge in a nonprofit space, is you're spending so much time just trying to generate the necessary funds to do the ministry.
And that's hard.
That
John.
your best
That's
energy
very
is
hard.
almost just in survival mode in that respect,
Yeah.
instead of going, that's taken care of. Let's get after it
Yeah.
so that we can really help the population we're trying to serve.
You summed it up really, really well. That's fantastic. So if I will end with this and I'll let you go because it's getting ready to be light. It's light out here
Yes,
now.
the light has come back,
You started in the darkness.
and you made it.
And now it's light.
You made it through the night.
I
That's
did.
good.
I did. I've only got till 3:00 this
Okay.
afternoon, and then I'm going to get some sleep.
There you go.
But if you can leave us and leave the folks who are watching us on Facebook Live as well as YouTube, what can they do? What's some of your suggestions that they could just? And I know what mine is. Mine's donate and volunteer.
Yeah.
But what do you think that some things that they can do?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. Obviously, prayer is super important because we can't do anything. We can't
Without
wake
prayer.
up in the morning without the power of God to kind of sustain us.
Why didn't I say that?
No,
first,
that's right. But James tells us every good and perfect gift comes from above.
Right.
So every gift we have, everything, our intelligence, our bodies, our minds, everything's a gift from God. So prayer is something that anybody can do. It requires nothing except a little bit of effort. Beyond that, to your point, I think that if everybody said, hey, I'm going to give up one coffee this week, and maybe this week becomes next week as well, and the next week after that, and I'm going to put that money towards Wheeler Mission, and it's $5 to $10 a week, which we spend on coffee.
Oh yeah.
And that's not a necessity. That's a luxury item, right? Something that we can do to make a little bit of a sacrifice, right? So that I think would be valuable in terms of being able to donate.
Okay.
Time, to your point,
Yeah.
right? Time
Volunteering.
is the one asset that I can donate, and no matter how hard I work,
Yeah.
I cannot recover
That's right.
that.
That's right. That's
As
right.
opposed to say money, I could
Yeah.
go out and make more money. But time, what are ways that I can serve? I know when we have worked with young people,
Yeah.
and we've brought them down and we've served the homeless, and I mean, it's just eye-opening to them. And all of a sudden you see their young hearts begin to open up like,
Yeah.
wow, like I can do this.
Yeah.
I can serve a meal, or I can help with some clothing, or whatever it is I need to do. So being able to do that. And the last thing I would say is for those that are interested in the bigger picture, public policy issues,
Mhm.
if you have veterans in your family, then pay attention to what's happening right
Yeah.
near here
Yeah.
in the state capitol, because
Yeah,
there are
yeah, yeah, yeah.
significant issues that affect the veteran population. There are significant issues that affect those who are struggling with addictions, with family, trying to keep the family together, with housing and all these different things. There are upstream public policy issues that have downstream
Yeah.
impact, and they need the voice of the people to speak into that.
Yeah.
I've often told people that those who are closest to a situation have the best sense of what's happening.
Yeah.
So they know what the problems are, and they probably have the better solution than we did as
Yeah.
political leaders, because we aren't in the trenches on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we have to give them the space. We have
That's
to give them
right.
the space
So
to
the
tell us.
goal is to say, hey, if we can get out of the way and we can open up a good line of communication, then hopefully we can make upstream public policy decisions that
Yeah.
have even more impact downstream.
Yeah.
And so that's something else that people
Yeah.
can pay attention to if they're
Okay.
interested in that kind of macro view.
Wow, what great advice, John.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sitting
Yeah,
here and
you bet.
having a conversation
Oh,
on the
my
bench with me.
pleasure.
I
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.